Well, this certainly wouldn't fly today, would it? Perhaps you younger viewers may not remember, but the WWE used to call their lady wrestlers divas. Things were, needless to say, a little different back then, and becoming a WWE diva was more akin to winning a beauty pageant than being a wrestler. So it's only fitting that at the time they would have a Miss WrestleMania Battle Royal. That's not an inherently bad idea. The idea of being Miss WrestleMania is a bit corny. Also, why it wouldn't be Mrs. WrestleMania, I'm not sure. I also think that would be a title that should be bestowed on a woman for putting on a string of good performances at WrestleMania as opposed to one in a Battle Royal, but what do I know? At WrestleMania 25, they had their Miss WrestleMania Battle Royal. This happened to coincide with Santina Marella being at perhaps the height of his career, having just broken the record for being eliminated the quickest in the Royal Rumble. Santino was determined to be a part of WrestleMania somehow. At the time, he was involved in an on-screen relationship with Beth Phoenix, and his humor was starting to get over with the fans. He addressed the crowd one week on Raw, and mentioned the upcoming 25 Diva Battle Royal. Quoting the man, he said, "I think we all know who is going to be the winner, Santina Marella." What made this line hilarious was that his on-screen girlfriend Beth was stood next to him, obviously expecting him to say she was going to win. No wonder Santino's comedy got over this stuff was gold, claiming that he had demanded that Vicky Guerrero allow him into the Battle Royal. Santino would go on to say that not allowing him to compete in the Battle Royal is sexual discrimination. Allegedly, Santino had been told that if he can defeat Mickie James with one hand tied behind his back, he will have the opportunity to prove that he is man enough to be Miss WrestleMania. Unfortunately, Santino would lose to Mickie James. Already, I can't imagine this going over well in today's climate. I'm going to do my best here to not get into political matters that aren't my bread and butter, but using sexual discrimination as a comedy angle in the early 2020s would probably hit different than it did in 2009. The next week, Santino would attempt to prove his eligibility, saying he had attempted to contact WWE President Jack Tunney before finding out he had passed away. This was a funny, subtle reference to when Jack Tunney was WWE's on-air figurehead. He compared himself to Gloria Steinem, a journalist and social activist who many see as the leader of second-wave feminism, which in itself is cheeky, but then he followed that up by claiming he was going to prove he should be in the Miss WrestleMania Battle Royal by putting on a swimsuit exhibition. He told the women in the ring that when it was over, they could go to the kitchen and cook him up something tasty. This would definitely be a riskier angle nowadays. So, that commotion ended with Santino being attacked by pretty much the entire female roster, but it wasn't enough to deter our boy Santino from becoming Miss WrestleMania. Naturally, he did compete in the Battle Royal. Santino would arrive at WrestleMania in drag, claiming to be his own twin sister, Santina Marella. The commentary referred to Santina as the ugliest diva as Beth Phoenix made her way to eliminate Melina. Santina then threw Beth Phoenix and Melina over the top rope at the same time, and just like that, Santina Marella had done it. We had a Miss WrestleMania crowned, and it was a man disguised as a woman. Again, I'm going to avoid stepping on any political or social toes here, but needless to say, in the current climate, this may not fly. With trans athletes being a hot-button issue, I can see an angle like this definitely receiving more backlash. Especially with Jerry Lawler saying that it was the first diva he'd seen with a 5 o'clock shadow. I'm not saying there was anything wrong with this myself, just that culture in the West has definitely changed since then, to say the least. Either way, it was almost inspirational watching Santina brought to tears by her grand victory in the center of the ring, even if it implied that the greatest WWE diva in the locker room was in fact a man. Santina rounded it off with some rather uncomfortable-looking dance moves, but I will admit she absolutely finessed the splits. Michael Cole on commentary could be heard begging for it to end, whilst Jerry Lawler conceded that Santina, quote, had some moves. Santino, in subsequent interviews, has said that, oddly enough, the Miss WrestleMania Battle Royal was his biggest moment. Allegedly, the storyline was originally meant to be a one-off, but it was considered so funny that the Santina character lasted for a few months. You should definitely watch this interview with Santino where he breaks down the process of getting his Santina gear together. It's really quite funny to hear. He expresses that one of his worries was that him dressing up as a woman was a sign WWE was getting the most out of him before firing him. But he would go on to be Santina Marella for years after that, fondly looking back at Santina as some of his best acting work, describing it as hilarious. Even saying that Santina having to say goodbye to the WWE universe made Santino cry for real. This is so weirdly wholesome that I have nothing to say about it, to be honest with you. From the comments on his interview and the Battle Royal itself, it's clear that the fans also fondly remember Santina, And if that wasn't clear enough, Santina made a shocking return at the 2020 Royal Rumble, eliminating herself with the Cobra after running afoul of Natalya and Beth Phoenix. When asked if we would see Santina again, she said, "I don't know. If they want me, I'm here." So what do you guys think? Does the Santina angle look bad with hindsight, or it's still as hilarious as ever? Would it fly today? Thanks for watching.